listening to the First City Lax podcast, brought to you every week from the Florida Panhandle. Coach John and Coach JP explore the best and worst of lacrosse on the Gulf Coast. So strap your helmets on and let's go.
And welcome back to First City Lacrosse. I am your host once again, Coach John, with my co-host, Coach JP. We are First City Lacrosse, and this is the second greatest lacrosse podcast on the planet. And we have a very special guest with us today, Coach Jamie, official Jamie Hansen with 38 Lacrosse. Jamie, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
We're glad you can make it. And this is going to be a fun one because what people don't know about you, but they're soon going to find out, is your lacrosse background and how that has led you from not only coaching and running your own program, but getting into officiating and learning everything you can about the girls' games. And so now you've moved into college officiating. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Well, we're going to get into all that, but before we do, why don't you just let everybody know a little bit about yourself. So who are you, where you're from, what's your lacrosse background, anything that we don't know that you think we should know.
Okay. Jamie Hansen, I grew up in Michigan and did not play lacrosse growing up. And right now that's probably, people are going to be like, why in the heck am I listening to this guy? As a matter of fact, I didn't get involved in lacrosse until my son was in second grade. We lived in Colorado. Military moved me out there. He was in second grade. He got involved in lacrosse. And I was just the dad on the sidelines watching lacrosse. I was in my, I think I was like 31 years old around this time. And while I was doing that, there was another dad, because lacrosse in Colorado was pretty new. He decided to start a men's league for beginners. So I played in this league, and there was like 3 teams the first season. And then the very next season, I think there was like 4 or 5 teams, and my son's still playing lacrosse. And then before you know it, there's 6, 7, 8, and now college kids are returning to play in this men's league. And after about 5 or 6 seasons and a couple broken ribs and a couple broken fingers, I decided maybe I'm a little bit too old to hang with some of these young guys being a beginner at like age 34, 35. So while that was going on, I also started helping. You know, I was the dad on the sideline, like shagging balls and just kind of keeping the drill going. And then what really happened was my son stopped playing lacrosse for a couple of years and came back to it around 6th or 7th grade. And then they needed a coach, and I was an assistant coach for a while, and then I was a head coach the very next season. I was a head coach for a couple of years, and I was learning lacrosse. Lucky for me, he was playing for a club called Blue Sky Lacrosse, and the guy who ran Blue Sky Lacrosse was Steve Govett, who was the general manager of Colorado Mammoth, and Steve was also my son's coach. So Gary Gate would come out. I met Gary, and Steve was a great coach. And I was learning from those guys, and I was watching how they did drills, and I was watching their patience with kids. And I really actually just started to love the game and just gravitated to it. And I was not an official until I moved out here to Florida in 2014 and moved in the Panhandle here in Santa Rosa Beach, and there was no lacrosse. And that's when I met Duke Pope. Duke had the Destin Rockets, and I think, John, you were running Stingrays at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was barely any clubs in the area. I think Gulf Breeze had a club. You guys had a club down there.
We started with 6 total, I think, or 5. It might have been 5, yeah.
I think there was a club in Mississippi. I can't remember the name. Or Ocean Springs, I think it was. Ocean Springs. So there was like 6 or 7 clubs, and that was it. And my son played for the Destin Rockets, and after a year doing that and helping Duke out a little bit, just doing some light coaching with him and that staff, I asked him if he was okay if I split off and started 38 Lacrosse, because we had a few kids from Santa Rosa Beach, and I felt like we would get some traction down here. Well, we did. We got 20 total kids to sign up that spring of 2015. No, 16. Spring of 2016. All the while I was trying to get a team at South Walton High School. You know, there was no high school lacrosse at Fort Walton, no high school lacrosse at Niceville. There was no high school lacrosse at North Bay Haven. There's none at Navarre, none at Milton. None of these teams existed. I was trying to get South Walton going, and I was able to break through and get that going by the time my son was a junior. and they had their first season in 2017. And the athletic director said, "There's no boys lacrosse without girls lacrosse." So I had never coached a girls game. Quite honestly, had maybe watched 1 or 2 girls games, and there I was suddenly coaching girls lacrosse in 2017 with the first 16 girls that played. And that's how I kind of got to the point where I'm at. My son was playing. Finally, they had a varsity team there at South Walton. First year was 2017, and I started becoming a girls and boys lacrosse coach. So every time those kids played a game, the teams traveled together on the same bus. It was a very long spring. So all the while 38 was standing up to, I think that spring we had like 60 or 80 players finally. So yeah, we finally had some teams, but that's when it all started. It was a very busy couple of years when I moved down here. Very busy couple of years.
And here you are.
And here I am.
Yeah.
That's a great build-up, man. Like, it really is, because my grandparents moved to, like, Santa Rosa Beach in, like, 1984 and built a house on a dirt road, like a modest 3-bedroom house. And now, like, look where it's at now. Like, 38, that's a big deal, man. So, like, talk about start to finish. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah, it was, when I started, it was just because I was giving my son an opportunity to play a sport that he was playing in Colorado that when we moved here really didn't exist. And I saw that there was a couple high schools that were also interested. Niceville was trying to get it going. At the time, I didn't even know Milton was trying to do anything. Fort Walton was trying to get it going, but they weren't trying to do it at Fort Walton High School. They're trying to do it at Choctaw High School, actually. So there was traction in the area, but nobody had been able to successfully do it. And then I feel like once we did in 2017, the dominoes really started to fall, because then it was Niceville, Milton, Fort Walton. Navarre came, I don't know when their first year was. I think 2020 maybe. I think it was 2020, because I was officiating a game, and the very next day everything was shut down because of COVID. And that was, I think, Navarre's first season. They were playing at like a local park.
Wow. Yeah. I remember that.
So yeah, in 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden it was boom, 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 boom. All these high schools just added lacrosse teams. By the way, I am no way claiming responsibility for that, but I think that South Walton having a team allowed a lot of these other high schools to justify going, hey, well, they're doing it, we should be able to do it too. And look at the opportunities these kids are getting to play another sport. So,
and you've always been really open about sharing the success, the things that have worked for you and the things that haven't worked for you. So when people see that, and when anybody talks to you, I think they recognize that. I mean, you clearly have a lot of pride in your organization, but also there's not so much pride that you're just like, I'm going to keep this all to myself. Like, you want to share it, and you are more than willing to pass whatever tidbit of information, whatever you think might help somebody along, and participate in whatever way you think, which is, going to bring us to the officiating part eventually. But, dude, it's been, obviously I've known you for a while, and it's been, and I know that, when I have issues or questions, like, you're probably one of the first guys I go to as well. So, I mean, I just appreciate it. Once people realize, how close the coaches are, even from the different schools and the different programs out there, we talk all the time. Like, I don't think they realize that. It's like, and especially the officials too. Like, I tell people this all the time, we've coached half those officials on that field.
That's true. It's funny,
it's just like, you're not going to talk to that player, that official, that way, because that's a friend of mine, and I coached him when he was 15 years old or something.
That's true, because Alec Musser played for the Destin Rockets, and he was one of our officials a couple years later. Seth played with my son on the Destin Rockets, and Seth officiated for us for a number of years. And so you're right. A lot of these kids turn around and they start officiating youth lacrosse while they're in high school. And then some of them turn out to be pretty good officials, and then they end up on the high school field with us. Now, we've lost a couple of those guys since, because kids get in their 20s and families start, and they begin to get heavy in their career. So we lose them a little bit, but I think a couple of them will come back.
A couple of them always do. They always do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just kind of how it goes. People get busy with life. They go away for a while and they come back. So.
Yeah,
it's all about building community too, though. You know what I mean? Like, our lacrosse community builds every season, like, small ways and big ways. So
it's very true. I I think like 98% of the relationships that I have are from lacrosse, period. If it's, I don't hang out with people at work, and that's not that I don't like people at work. It's just there's lines that I don't necessarily cross when it comes to work relationships. But in lacrosse, I don't really have that. I might be running the program, but I'm just fine sitting down and having a drink with someone or going out and having a coffee with them or whatever. And my wife and I have met a lot of good people through the lacrosse community, and we stay in touch with a great deal of them still. And we still go to high school graduations, and we hear about their successes that they're having in college. And these kids come back from college, and we see them in their 20s now at the local bar, and we sit there and we chat with them, see how they're doing. And it's nice to have that, and that is part of the community you're talking about there, JP.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, real quick, Jamie, before we really start doing a deep dive here,
Okay.
Let's do some rapid fires just to help everyone get to know you a little bit more, and maybe you've got some more of those tidbits of golden nuggets that we were talking about a second ago. What book are you reading right now? Are you reading a book right now? You got a favorite?
Fingerprints of the Gods.
Who's that by?
I couldn't even tell you. My buddy sent it to me because we were on a camping trip a couple summers ago, and we were talking about the existence of life external to Earth, and he sent me this book called Fingerprints of the Gods, and it's a really good read. It's about, let's just say, evidence that's thousands of years old of potential existence. So it's a good book.
That's cool.
Book. Yeah.
That's cool. You got a favorite podcast or show or YouTube channel that you get a lot of value from?
So podcasts I listen to all the time. There's a show called How I Built This, and it's on Spotify and it's on other channels. I really like it. It's about really people's success stories. So if you can think of a business out there that's new and up and coming, this guy, his name is Guy Raz actually, and he used to be with PBS. He interviews these people, and he does the coming up of the business and where they are now and what happened to the business. He's had everyone on there. Some great success stories on there. So I enjoy it. It's good.
Cool. You got a favorite player, favorite coach, pro, college, favorite official, someone you try to model your style of coaching or play after?
No.
Or officiating, I guess.
I know. No, I don't. You know who I used to talk to a little bit, and it was Gordon Corsetti, Lou's son. I used to talk to him a little bit. So the news of his death was shocking to me. I gravitate to whoever's game is good. If I see things that I like, I put it in my toolbox. I don't have like any one person that I necessarily follow. I see a lot of good out there. Being an official, I see a lot of different coaching styles, and I see a lot of different play styles. And I officiate with some really great people. I was just down at the National Cup, and I was with a college official who was down here from South Carolina. Was at this Florida tournament, and she was a fantastic official. I picked up a lot of tidbits of what she does out on the field, and I'm like, all right, well, I could do that better, and I like how she was doing this. So, yeah, I pick things up. And I don't have anyone that I follow. I don't really have a favorite player. Talk to Miles kind of often enough to pick up things from him and talk to him about the PLL and whatnot. So
you're the second person to mention him on the podcast, so we're going to have to get him on.
Yeah, we need him on for sure.
Yeah.
I want to hear his story.
Conversation. Yeah, he's good conversation.
Yeah, we need to get him on for sure. Cool. All right, well, let's look ahead a little bit. So what kind of things are you preparing for 2025? You're still going to be officiating, right?
Yes. Yep.
And are you still running your lacrosse program at all, your 30A program? Okay.
Yeah, 30A lacrosse is still going on. For me, and maybe you do this the same way, but lacrosse season for me really starts in, let's just say, August. I'm doing a lot of fall planning. I'm doing a lot of spring planning. We have the league meetings with the other clubs, and we're planning out fall, we're planning out spring. But what's also happening in the fall is I'm going to officials clinics. Like I was down at Embry-Riddle in mid-October and to do my collegiate certification. What a lot of people don't know is when you go and you do these certifications, you're paying $250 to go get certified. So it's not free. You have to want to do this. And then you go down there and you're not necessarily guaranteed. The first time I did a transitional, they did not recommend me for transitional status. The next year I went back, they recommended me for transitional, and then I was transitional for a year, and I just went down to do my collegiate certification in October, and I got my collegiate rating. So But also what's happening is now that I'm the assigner for the officials here in the Panhandle for the SCFOA, I'm collecting all of the high school schedules right now, and I'm getting that loaded up into Arbiter, and we're getting ready for our officials meetings, which are going to happen the end of January, early February. And then also planning out the 30A season, and then working with the league on all the games that we've got coming up there and trying to plan all that out and finding all the sites. There's just a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on, especially with officiating. And I just got word 2 days ago, FHSAA wants us down in Gainesville on January 10th. I really wish they'd give us a little bit more notice, but they want us down there for all the officials from all the different organizations.
Just
They
for
want them down there.
like an officials meeting or whatever?
Yeah, like a 3-hour long meeting. Got to come to Gainesville for that.
Wow.
So.
No Zoom option, no remote admin, no, like you got to be there in person. They got to see your pretty face. Yep.
But you know what? That's the same thing with our officials. When we do training, we're going to do it over in Pensacola, and you got guys like me in Santa Rosa Beach. Now, granted, a great majority of our officials come from Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre area, and that's a little bit closer for them. But we got people down in Panama City and here. We're traveling over and doing that stuff. Like, that's out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
So, but you have to do it.
Yeah. Now, for those officials meetings, especially the ones here locally, are coaches welcome at those meetings typically?
Yeah, actually, they are welcome at those meetings.
Really?
That's where we're doing our training. Yep. Now, before those meetings, we have a high school coaches meeting that we're going to do. So we'll have them on. We do that with Zoom, and we're covering the new rules and the rules interpretations and just kind of what's going on for the season. It's not that long, maybe an hour, hour and a half. But the training for the officials themselves is kind of an all-day thing, even though this year we're reformatting it. We're doing new guys in the morning, going to do all the new guys, and then have the veterans come in the afternoon. And then on another day, we're going to do actual field training. And then when you guys, the local teams, when you have the preseason stuff before your actual season kicks off, that's when we go out and we're on the field with those officials doing field training. So
it's not uncommon to see 6 or 7 officials on the field at the same time for those. And which is great, I think. So just to be clear for the audience, the officials are not blind. No. They are highly trained.
Yes, there's a lot.
They know the rules. Like, they get quizzes and they get tested on the rules constantly.
That's correct.
So
they are human.
And they're not easily annoyed, or maybe they are. I'm not sure.
I think that comes at all levels. So a couple things that I would say, this isn't even in defense of officials, but number one, there's a lot of training, right? There really is a lot of training. You've got to pass the USA Lacrosse test. You've got to pass the FHSAA test, which, by the way, you can only take the FHSAA test once, and it's at 80% or better. So you can't fail it. If you fail it, you're just done. The USA Lacrosse test, it's an 80% or better, and you can take it as many times as you want. And a lot of times people have to retake the test. I've had to retake the test in the past when I was a new official, because there's little hidden scenarios in the book that are just nitnoid things that you learn about over time. And I'll be the first to tell you, officials make mistakes. And by the way, we don't see everything that goes on the field. I know I'm letting out a big secret right now.
How
Don't
could
play
you
this
miss that? Well, I wasn't
because
looking. That's how.
We do. Because we do. And that's the other thing that goes into it's. A lot of our training is positioning. So when you're on the field and you're down at GLE and you're the official on GLE, your job is shooter, watch the crease, and watch for anything late on the shooter. Your trail has totally different assignment. He's watching, if he's not on ball, if the ball's away from him, he's watching all the other crap. And then the protection of the shooter and anything egregious is really a big thing that we're watching for when that play begins to get contested up in and near the goal. When it's out and away, and we back off a little bit and we are kind of just watching a lot of off-ball stuff, tone and tenor of the game matters a lot. I mean, we've been throwing flags on the boys' side. If you've been throwing flags for slashes and you've seen a couple really close hits that were borderline unnecessary, it begins to develop a little bit of a chippiness if they're borderline fouls. And before you know it, that big hit's going to come. And that's when you have to be on it. You have to see that flag's got to come out. And on the girls' side, kind of the same thing. You know, it always starts with like a little push, and then there's another push, and then pretty soon, like, a girl goes down. She gets pushed from behind, boom, face eats dirt. And the pushes from behind are something that they are trying to take out of the game on the girls' side, period. They are a mandatory yellow card now.
Yeah.
That was a big escalation last year. A lot of people weren't ready for. And so you push a girl from behind, she doesn't have to go to the ground. You just pushed her from behind. It's a yellow card. Sorry.
Wow.
You did it.
Why don't you describe to our viewers about what yellow card means, actually?
Okay. So yellow card, similar to in the boys' game where a flag goes down and they're going to be penalized and have to go to the box. A yellow card is an automatic 2 minutes. And you serve the full time. There's no early release. Now, in the college game, it's a little different. You go in the box, yellow card, goal is scored, you come out. But it's still a 2-minute penalty in college. And in college, there's a green card, and the green card is a 1-minute penalty. And that is anything pretty much between the restraint lines in the girls' game. So physical foul between the restraint lines, green card, 1-minute penalty, you're going to the box because they're taking that away. That is very much a tactic that's used, I would say, in girls lacrosse, where just hit them with a little nitnoid fouls so that the play has to stop and the defense can catch up. I know it's a tactic. I can't guarantee it's being taught, but I know girls do it. So,
I mean, it's within the scope of the game.
Yeah.
Whether or not it falls in the realm of sportsmanship is something else, but I think you could look at, like, you know, the Oregon-Ohio State football game and then the way that ended, you know, that's, you know, when you see a coach from one team sort of manipulating the rules to force the other team to not have as much time left on the clock or something like that. I mean, yeah, I could see that happening. And again, a manipulation of the rules is it's still within the rules, but I think the right answer is probably just play the game the way it was intended to be played.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's good coaching. He's using the rules to advantage. And there's truth in that. And I see it happen. A lot of tournaments don't do the no timeouts under 5 minutes. And so you'll have a coach who's up by 2 or 3 goals call a timeout with like 2 or 3 minutes left just to soak a minute off the clock. And, you know, you'll see people kind of creep back maybe to the jar or the face-off when they score a goal and they're within 1 and there's maybe 30 or 40 seconds left in the game. You see them just kind of jog back, do a late sub. Come on, guys, let's get the game going. Give the team a chance. They earned it. So me as an official, if I know that's going on, I'm running back to the line and we're getting ready to play lacrosse.
Yeah.
So it's interesting the things that you see evolve during a game as an official as you become more veteran, and you can kind of see plays develop, and you can see penalties that are about to happen right before they happen.
How long have you been officiating?
So the same year that I got South Walton stood up, and the same year that I was coaching 30A, that year in the fall and the previous spring, so spring 2016, that is when I started officiating. I was just doing youth in 2016, and Jeff Sherman, who was our assigner back then, he had me do a few high school games because I was getting to know the girls' side of the game at that point, and there was no one in the area doing girls lacrosse. So,
no, it's still hard to find.
Would you rather coach or officiate?
Pardon me?
Would you rather coach or officiate?
I'm about half and half now. 5 years ago, I said coach. But now I actually enjoy the officiating part of the game. So there's some easy things about it. Like I can show up half hour before the game. I'm there just to officiate the game. I don't necessarily care which team wins or loses. I'm just there to call the fouls as I see them. And that's very different than looking through, your green colored glasses because you coach for this team or red colored glasses for you coach for this team. Everybody sees the foul when it's their team getting fouled, but no one ever sees the other team getting fouled.
No,
yeah,
that never
happens. I say it
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And when we had Tyler on, I specifically asked him, I'm like, so how do you, so I'll ask you the same thing. When as a coach, 9 times out of 10, if you call something, or if you don't call something, we'll just say if you call something, 9 times out of 10, if I don't agree with it, I'm probably just going to ask you. I'm like, hey, what did you see?
Mm-hmm.
And those times, and I'm probably going to wait for a dead ball. I'm not going to sit there and try to take away from the game. I want the game to be played regardless. I understand. There's parts of the game that I don't see, and there's an official who's I'm 50 or 60 yards away, maybe on the sidelines, and you, the official, are 5 yards away. You're right on top of the play. And it doesn't necessarily mean you see it exactly the way I see it, though. And so we're going to have different perspectives. Obviously, the spectators have the best seat in the house because they can see everything and they don't make any mistakes. So, but what's the best way for me as a coach, knowing full well that if I approach this situation incorrectly or wrongly or, with attitude or something like that, I can be ejected from this game. Now, I've been coaching sports a long time, and I've been coaching lacrosse now for 10 years, and I can count one time only where I've ever seen an official be asked to leave a game. And it was such a clear case of bias that it was just, basically forced one of the teams to be like, hey, we're not going to play if that official's back out here. So, and I'm talking like not just bias, but like open hostility to one of the teams.
I know about that case, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about that one.
But that's the thing. It's like the officials are good. They are highly trained. So what's the best way for, as a coach, or if I was a player, team captain, what's the best way for me to approach that official and be like, hey, I don't agree with the call. Like, how should we do this? Like, it's not going to change the call, obviously, but.
Okay. Good question, because this is something that I work with or try to work with some of my coaches some of them are younger and learning, and I try to teach them how to talk to the officials to be effective with it. The best way to be effective is flat out ask me a question, or ask any official a question. Say, hey, I know you were close to the play. I don't agree with the call. I saw this. Can you tell me what you saw, or why did you make that call? Like, ask me why I made the call. That's because, first of all, I should be giving you some sort of verbiage from the book. Like, for example, a slash. A slash doesn't have to make contact. If you throw a swing with a stick with egregious intent, even if it doesn't make contact, that's still a slash. And that's the language from the book, basically. So you can throw that stick, and don't you love it when attackmen just run up to that halfway line right there, tippy-toe, and just throw that stick right in the belly of the midi as he's crossing? I'm just putting my hand down to my waist to get ready to pull the flag out when I see him rear back with that single-handed stick check. So those kind of things. And the easiest way is just ask me. If you're yelling at me or if you're constantly lobbying for calls, I hear you, but it doesn't really do anything. I'm not going to change my mind. Now, have I gone back and eaten crow about some things in the past? Oh, absolutely. They've said something, or a coach has brought something up. I've made a call. I've gone, looked at the book, and we've had a stoppage of play. Been like, gone back to the coach and go, hey, coach, you're right. I was supposed to do it this way. Won't happen again. And actually, those are the times that I've learned. Those are those little nitnoid scenarios in the book that maybe you just didn't read before, or just has never shown up on a test because the test changes every year. That is the best way that I've learned, is through making a mistake. But isn't that what we're supposed to do as humans? Is if you're not learning from it, then you just screwed up. But the one thing that you shouldn't do is just constantly yell at me and berate me. It's just definitely not going to help. Eventually, I will get tired of it. I've gotten to the point, when I was younger, I wouldn't throw a flag on a coach, maybe, or I wouldn't card him. Now, I'll card you. I just won't. Give me your in-home. 2 minutes. I've been listening to it all game. I'm 15 feet from the play. You're 50 yards from the play.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you on that one. I will confess that I am far from perfect, and I usually try to be respectful on the sidelines, and occasionally I will have a moment. And when that happens, I'll eat crow and I'll swallow my pride a little bit and apologize to the official, A, because it's the right thing to do, and B, there's a good chance I was probably wrong. Like, I just saw something different than the official saw. It's not saying anybody's wrong or right, but I don't have the privilege of being able to make that call on the field. I just have to watch it. So,
sure.
that's what we tell the players too. It's just like, you guys have to figure out what the officials are going to call, and if you're not getting the call you want or that you think you should get, you need to ask them. Just go to your team captain or go to your coach, say, hey, they're doing this and I can't get around it, whatever it happens to be. So
I think we're all guilty of that what the hell moment,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, JP.
Oh, you're good. I was thinking we're all guilty of that what the hell moment.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I was looking back on it, I was probably a horrible coach to have on the sidelines in my early years, and now I don't talk to the officials. As a matter of fact, I've noticed that some of the best teams, their players play through all the non-calls, potential any non-calls. They play through it. The players, the coaches, none of them, the best teams that I officiate, they don't even talk to the officials. They're just playing lacrosse. The call happens. The call happens. Every now and then, the coach will come up and ask me a question or say something about, hey, why'd you call that? Or something to that effect. And I explain, and they always do it during the dead ball, and then they move on. Also, I would say the best coaches learn to coach within the confines of what the officials are giving you. So sometimes a game is going well and there's good flow and there's not a lot of physicality. Maybe they're bumping each other, maybe it looks physical, but they're not committing any egregious fouls, and we're letting them play a little bit. And the coaches will start to crank it up a little bit and let them, maybe fire the ball. In girls lacrosse, we got that wonderful shooting space that no one loves. Maybe let them take some of those risky shots with some of those better teams because the officials are allowing them to shoot in those tight spaces. And we step in and we make the call when we can. And the tone and tenor of the game really does matter with this. We're allowed to back off because maybe that player wasn't disadvantaged during the foul. So they're going down the field and that push happened and I see it and my hand goes up, indicating that I saw it, but they played through it and they maintained their advantage. My hand goes down, nothing happens. So it's just one of those things. And that's kind of like a loose ball push. You'll hear the officials go play on during a loose ball push. And then if the team is disadvantaged or they can't come away with the ball, just blow it dead and give it to blue or white or whoever was fouled and move on with the game. That's the nice thing about this, and that's also the nice thing about hockey. You don't get that in basketball. Foul happens in basketball, it's a foul. So they blow it, they stop it, it starts over. And the girls' game used to be like that, but they're allowing it to be faster now, and that's what I do like. They've changed some of the rules to allow play to advance and be faster. And that's the good thing about that side of the game.
I think that's a concept that maybe some of the people who are newer to lacrosse don't grasp. It usually takes a little bit for them to understand. The game is designed to be played fast.
Yes, it is.
Stopping the game
fastest game on 2 feet.
Fast, yeah. The game is designed to be played fast. Stopping the game is boring. Like we want to keep this thing moving, and so it pays to hustle. Like theoretically, the more athletic, faster team is supposed to win this game. Like that's just how it plays out. But if you keep stopping it every time there's a penalty, every time, like in basketball, if you had to blow the whistle every time, like you would never get anything accomplished. This game would never end. It's just, it's a physical game. It's designed to be played fast. Yeah, you're going to get hit. You're going to get bumps and bruises. And again, like you said, if the player isn't disadvantaged, then you keep playing. It's just that simple.
Right. And that's the other thing about the game is there's minor fouls that don't count for anything. You can foul out in boys lacrosse. You can actually foul out in girls lacrosse as well. So if you get 2 yellow cards, you're done for the game because you committed 2 major fouls. And usually that's something like a check to the head or like a dangerous propel or a dangerous follow through where your stick actually came through on your shot and hit the other player. Or you were playing recklessly and we hit you with like a dangerous contact or a dangerous play. Like you came and just plowed through a girl. Maybe you were doing that during a loose ball, but you're still not supposed to do that. And in boys lacrosse, it's the same thing, except it's 5 minutes of major fouls. You can collect 5 minutes of minor fouls and you're not going to do anything but jeopardize, your team. You're not going to leave the game. But I mean, you really, to be completely honest, shouldn't be collecting 5 minutes of major fouls in boys lacrosse. Otherwise your team's in trouble.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time in the box.
If you, knowing what you know now, if you had to go back in time and tell yourself something like your younger coach self or your first year official self something, what would that thing be? What would you go back in time and tell yourself?
Mm. Okay, so this is a blend of my knowledge from officiating and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But my younger coach self, I would say, stop worrying about the calls and just coach your kids. That's literally what I would tell myself, because that's going to allow those kids to focus on the play of the game rather than coach is upset with these calls that are happening. It changes the focus. They're focused more on the game and winning or whatever is going on during the course of the game. Younger officiating self, I would say continue to have confidence. You need to have confidence in your calls. And once a week, I would go through, after a couple of years of officiating, I realized I'm like, I need to read this book more. I'm not just going to learn it all on the field. So once a week, I would get into the book, and just something that I didn't feel quite confident on, I'd read about it. And then I'd maybe go look it up and learn how that's called, or watch maybe a game online or something and see if I could see that or where to make that call. So I was trying to learn, but that took me a couple of years to gather that maturity as a young official to be able to do that.
That's a good answer, because that's all about integrity. Like if I don't know something, I'm going to look it up. Like if I see something I don't know about, I'm going to look it up. So, I mean, you coaching and, being an official at the same time, that's different than anybody we've had on so far. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think? It's kind of a two-sided question. So what do you prefer yourself to do for a game versus being a coach or being an official?
So as a coach, prepare for the game. I'm there early. I'm the kind of person that needs to be at the field and just kind of start like literally soaking it in like I was as a player. I was always there early, getting in the environment, getting ready for things. And I want to be the first one there at the field. I don't want to be rolling in later than any of my players. I want to be the first one there and be greeting the players as they show up, because I think that matters. There's a lot of importance to that. I'm kind of the same way at work. I like to be one of the first people to show up at work as well. As an official, I'm there at least 30 to 45 minutes early, and I'm inspecting the field. We're all inspecting the field. We check the goals, we check the lines, make sure there's no holes anywhere. Maybe go say hi to the coaches, and just get ready for the environment. We do a little pregame talk about, if it's early in the season, we're still feeling out the teams, because the high school teams or the college teams, they're coming in. We don't really know these players. We don't know what's been going on the first 3 weeks of their practice. We're not sure their level of skill necessarily. I mean, we know from the previous years what some teams are going to bring to the table, but that does change every year. You get surprised.
Yeah.
By week 2 or week 3, we kind of, if you do a lot of games, like last year I did 32 games, if you do a lot of games, you begin to understand the teams. You kind of know how the game is going to go, but we get surprised sometimes. So I like to be there early, and we do a little, hey, last time we're out here, this was going on. Let's watch for this. Let's watch for that. Let's make sure that they know that we're on the field. If we need to call a foul early because it immediately gets physical, let's get involved in the game, something like that. Otherwise, let's let them play and get that first 5 minutes through and see how the game is going. So the first 5 minutes of the game is going to tell you a lot. Same thing. That's another thing I tell my players. The first 5 minutes of the game, if you haven't figured out who the best players on the field are, we're in trouble. Because those are the ones that have to be guarded. You got to figure that out in 5 minutes, or else they're going to light you up all day long.
Good advice.
So, like on the coach's side, when you're a coach, like I said, we're all guilty of like, are you blind? Did you see this? Did you see that? Say you're coaching and you start to see things that your mind starts to wander, your mouth starts to wander. Like, are you blind? Are you kidding me? Tell us about that, please.
Are we talking about the players?
I'm talking about you on the sidelines. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm on the sideline. I honestly, back in the day, I was kind of watching everything. Now I'm mostly watching my players. If I see something that I think was bad, I might go, and he missed that call, and I might say it to myself, and then maybe I'll say something at halftime, but most of the time, no. I'm talking to my players now. I don't really address the officials anymore. I talk to the players only. I'm concerned about what they're doing on the field and what they're seeing, because ultimately that's going to have more of an outcome of the game than anything. If we lose to a team 12-1, well, did the officials have anything to do with that? And quite honestly, no, because that other team took care of their business and they put us out of our misery, and we lost 12-1. If we lose a game 12-11, did the officials have anything to do with that? Maybe they made a call that gave us an extra goal and we could have lost 12-10, or maybe they made a call that gave the other team another goal and we lost 12-11. I don't know. I don't really get involved in that. I don't think officials have much to do with the outcome of the game.
No.
It sucks that officials have to make calls late in the game when it's on the line, but the call is the call. And I'm talking to my players. For example, here's a good one. Officials had nothing to do last year when I was coaching our team in the surf and turf, and they were down by a goal, and they absolutely would not extend and cut off adjacent, and there's 2 minutes left in the game and they're down by a goal. They were just sitting back on the 8-meter, just allowing the other team to hold the ball and pass it around, and I'm literally screaming at the top of my lungs to my players to extend and cut off adjacent and pressure the ball, and they just wouldn't. And that was situational awareness on them. They came to the sideline. They thought they were winning. I have no idea how they thought they were winning. They thought they were winning the game. So they weren't listening to me. They literally just, the officials had nothing to do with that.
They were listening to coach.
That I was trying to coach my team. And I remember the other coach, who is one of our local coaches here, was looking over at me, and he knew what was going on. And he was just kind of smiling because he realized they weren't listening to me. It's a terrible feeling.
That's the most frustrating part.
It's so frustrating. The other coach knows what you're trying to do and just smiles at you.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure like some listeners that are not lacrosse players, maybe parents, like, why do these guys talk about something and they sit there and roll their eyes about, I should have done this better, should have done that better. It's addictive. The game is addictive. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's true. I
want to learn as much about it as I possibly can. I'm 47 years old. JR, I'm not sure how old you are yet.
Old enough.
But, we just want to learn all of it, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It does get addictive being a part of it, and a part of it in many facets. Seeing, now being involved in the youth level as much as I am on the league side, more than I've ever been. Watching the families come and enjoy just a day of lacrosse, being out there on the field. I get enjoyment out of that, especially when it's like a really good day and no BS is going on. And people are just enjoying watching their kids compete. That is a really great feeling. I leave most Saturdays and Sundays when we're doing that feeling really good about how the day went, no matter what calls I missed or no matter what calls anyone missed that day on the official side. And no matter, who maybe yelled at who, when I see everyone really just enjoying the game and making a day of it, that's just what I like. And that's all youth sports. That's all youth sports, all the way up to the high school level. I really, really like that part of just athletic competition, period.
But lacrosse is a challenge in this part of the country. You know what I mean? Like, it's a challenge, like growing it. So
it is.
Where do you see yourself in the future, or actually growing the sport of lacrosse in Northwest Florida? Like, what do you want to happen?
Here's where I'm personally at, and this has been a lot of soul searching over the last year. I've been fortunate to have a lot of people move into the area where I'm at that are quite honestly better coaches than me, more experienced, and I've let off the reins a little bit. As a matter of fact, I didn't coach our high school girls team at all this summer and fall. I helped coach a little bit in the summer when I came back from a trip that I was on for one tournament, but I didn't coach at all this fall. I just officiated and ran the helper on the youth league. That's what I did, and I ran the organization. But we've had a lot of good coaches move into the area, and I see that happening with some other organizations. I really don't know how good each organization is doing, but I think my role is to continue to, I would say, foster some of those relationships in my own club and also in the other clubs to make sure that there's the right coaches involved and the right people involved in lacrosse. I think where I would be 10 years from now, I'll be 59 10 years from now. I'll probably still be officiating. Probably won't be coaching much, to be completely honest. That's what I see my contribution to the game will be in the long term, is more on the officiating side of things and less on the coaching side of things.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, this has been fun, man. This has been, it's always good to chat with you, but also I think it's really good for people to hear
Definitely
your insight and some of the experiences that you've had. And it's great motivation too for our younger officials, because they can see how quickly you've sort of progressed on that front and moving up to officiate at the college level, which is just, incredible for somebody from this area. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do here with this podcast, and what we're trying to do with our players is get our players recognized, get our coaches and officials recognized, so that people outside the area will see and understand, like, we have some talented athletes and coaches and officials here, and
Right.
You don't go sleeping on the South. Like, we're coming for you. So it's so much fun to watch. This has been fun, Jamie. I appreciate you. Real quick, if people wanted to get in touch with you regarding 30A lacrosse or officiating, how do they do that?
On the officiating side, it's Lacrosse at, I'm not even going to give you that address. Can't remember what it is. It's more my administrative side. Just email 30alax@gmail.com. That's 30, the number 30, alax@gmail.com.
Perfect.
I have an assigner email address, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, to be completely honest.
You can send it to me later. I could drop it in the show notes when we're done.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good, man.
Awesome. JP, you got anything else for this guy?
What, man, I could question you for hours, but honestly, I'm be like, what do you think? Being a coach, what makes you a better coach as being an official? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, being a better official makes you be a better coach. Explain that for me.
Oh, yeah, that's that's a good
I
one
was
to
thinking
end
about that
on.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, that's kind of like a double negative or double-edged sword at the same time. But then it's like, I know everything. You know what I mean?
That's a good one to end on. Let's hear it.
That's a really good question. Honestly, that's a really good question. I don't think being a good official makes me a better coach. I do think it allows me a good understanding of the rules and to be able to coach within the rules. And also to be able to figure out that maybe the officials are allowing some things to go on, and tell the girls, be like, hey, look, like, this is not going to get called today. These guys are letting you play. So go ahead, fire away today. It allows me to do some things like that, just to figure those things out maybe a little quicker than other coaches. But I don't think it makes me a better coach. It makes me just a little bit more aware of what's going on, and to be able to coach within the confines of the rules. I try to, as best we can, we try to coach the girls and the guys for that matter, to maybe be a little bit more diligent towards the rules because of who I am in my position and what I've done with officiating. So I think maybe I coach them a little bit differently, to be less physical, even though you can't necessarily take it out of them all the time. Sometimes they just get involved in the game and they do something dumb. So but short answer, no, doesn't make me a better coach. And as a matter of fact, doesn't make me, just because I used to coach, doesn't make me a better official. As a matter of fact, most coaches who have coached for more than 2 or 3 years, once they come to the officiating side of things, realize how little they knew of the rules. Mm-hmm. And I was in that group included. There's a lot of people that come over and they're like, man, I didn't realize this, I didn't realize that. I was definitely one of the guys who said that. I didn't know the rules until I started officiating.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. JP, great question.
Yeah, man, thank you so much.
Yeah. Jamie, thanks for being on here. Once again, man, if they want to get a hold of you, it's 30alax@gmail.com, right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Correct. Yep.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, Tune in on your favorite podcast platform, drop a like and subscribe in there. And if you want to see any specific content or you want us to start asking specific questions, go ahead and send that to us as well. You can find me, John, at firstcitylax.com, Jon at firstcitylax, or you can hit JP up, same email, jp at firstcitylax.com.
We are an open book, I promise.
That is it for this episode. We will see you guys next time. Get your reps in and be a good human. We'll see y'all later.
Hit the wall.
If you like what you hear, drop us a like and follow wherever you downloaded this podcast from, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at First City Lax. Check back every week for more content. Thank you for being a part of the First City Lacrosse podcast.